But first, let's talk about open interest here a little bit. You know, in markets, right? We have obviously what's called like futures, right? Even in commodities and things like that, but also specifically in crypto. Um, with the majority of crypto, I'm sorry, majority of crypto is heavily leveraged, right? So you need to remember that crypto is typically like the most leveraged market out there that there is trade. And so with that being said, um, even more important to pay attention to some of these things like open interest and funding. And so I was trying to say all that as well to like tie in that the reason we have like open interest, right, is because you hear two different types of futures sometimes referred to in crypto, but mainly it has to do with perpetual futures, right? So there's no actual like strike. There's no date, right? So it's just rolling. So the whole point of open interest, right, is to keep the futures price as close to the spot price, right, as possible. So it kind of incentivizes traders to trade a certain way or direction in order to make sure that the futures price is really kind of matches the spot price. And we've talked a little bit before about CBDs and things like that, but we'll leave that alone for today. So open interest can be used to identify how healthy a trend or a move is. Extremely useful when trading a macro trend, right? Can be used to identify sideways patterns or try to find out a sideways if a sideways range is going to break. So like on like a day like an FOMC day or a day where there's major news, or even like with this ETF ETH narrative in the background, it would be you'd be less using something like open interest, for example. More macro. Think about it like say Bitcoin's we've been in a bullish trend, right, and hopefully it remain. If you were looking at something like this on like a daily level or whatnot, you'd want to see open interest would be there to like tell you if the trend's going to continue. And if you started to see, and we'll look at it in a minute, but like open interest in a bullish trend starting to fade or decline, while say price action was sideways, that would be a sign maybe that it was fixing to break down. So when we look at funding, right, funding is an important fee to be aware of. It can be influence price. It's less important than open interest, but still helpful. Here's kind of two examples, right? If you look, say, and this is just in the past, but BTC 1 billion open interest was a level of resistance for quite some time. And just like also kind of funding majorly affected the breakdown of 10K descending triangle in BTC. Obviously that was probably before some of y'all, but anyways. So like here's like a table we can use to like kind of or if you want to screenshot this or even save it for later, but and there's a PDF. I'll make sure to upload the PDF here as soon as we're done. But so here's the easy way kind of to think about it, right? So like I was talking about, prices rising, right, and we have volume increasing, as well as we have open interest increasing. The market is currently bullish in a strong uptrend. So what's the meaning? High buy interest. That means you got to think up. Let's picture this. Like this is like this would be like new contracts or people opening longs, right? So that's adding to the open interest. And the opposite of that, right, would be right. Well, not the opposite, but like another example, right, would be you have price rising, you have volume decreasing, and you have open interest decreasing. This would be this more of like a bearish weak uptrend, right? And we can look at some examples of this, but what this equates to, what's going on when I have meaning here, what this means, like what's going on in the background, right? So what's really going on in the background while you're getting all these other signs, right, is more likely it's like the interest in buying is drying up, right? So you have exiting shorts closing or being stopped out. And then down here we have price declining, volume increasing, open interest increasing. So bearish, you're in a strong bearish downtrend, right? So you have high sell pressure, and you have new shorts opening, right? And that's why you have that open interest increasing along with volume. And then in this last example, right? So you have price declining, and you have volume increasing, and you have open interest decreasing. Typically, that's a sign of like a bullish weak downtrend. You're in a bullish market, but you're in a weak downtrend. So usually that's like a sign of like selling pressure fading out, right? So you have existing longs are closing or being stopped out. If volume or open interest are both increasing, and then the current price trend will probably continue in present direction. If, however, the volume and open interest are declining, the action can be viewed as exhausting, and that the current price trend may be nearing the end. So, open interest, guys, like a very common place to kind of look at some of this. I like CoinGlass a lot right now. See that they kind of have a pretty clean interest, clean interface is what I'm trying to say. But you can look at right away at open interest and things like that. So here we just have this table. We could actually look more at open interest, but you can see here that open interest today is declining. Volume is declining, right? We have total options open interest is increasing, right? But we're talking about Bitcoin. We're looking at actually at this table. So let's actually I can move over here and move over here to open interest and just kind of we can look even more. So if you look here on Bitcoin, right? This is where, say, if we're looking on, and this is going to be on an exchange based on different on each exchange, right? You can always look at this more like an aggregated version of all, but generally, if you're going with like a big exchange, right, like Binance, at least still for the time being, or something like that, when you're looking at open interest, it should be good enough or give you a good indication, right? So, and this is just a level of all the different open interest across coins. Obviously, the highest open interest is on Bitcoin, but you can use this kind of to get a good reference. Say like when I'm starting my day, right, it's one of the things that I'm looking at is open interest and looking at funding rates and things like that. I think it's more helpful. This is another website called CoinAnalyze where you can look at open interest and funding rates. I find it more helpful when you have like a chart, right, to go along with it. So you're looking at the actual price. You can look at trend or actual price action and then see as well if open interest is matching that or starting to give you any type of divergence. Typically, right, the higher the time frame, just like most other things we do with technical analysis, usually the stronger the indication in the signal. So I always keep that in mind as well. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Open interest. With price moving up in an uptrend and total open interest increasing, this shows that new money is coming into the market, right? New longs, which is considered bullish. If prices are rising and open interest declines, the movement is only likely to be caused by shorts covering, right? So what do we mean by that? Say if oh, I can't. Let's move over here. I can't draw on this one, right? So here, let me show you another example. Let's look at this even on TradingView. I don't know if a lot of y'all can use open interest, but in TradingView, but okay, yeah. So you can get open interest here in TradingView. So for example, right here on my chart, this we have open interest on the bottom, like we were looking at another example. And this is Ethereum. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here is, let's look and see how we can. Well, you see for the time being right here on these high time frames, just looking at Ethereum, right? We have open interest is, for the most part, is not declining yet. So we'll have to wait and see. But if this would have been a good example if we start to see open interest, say, really starting to decrease here. Let's see, lower time frame, see if we see something like that. Still hanging in there. So according to what we're learning today, right, and practicing, what example are we looking at right now if we're looking at this? Does anybody know? Let's check our volume. So do we have volume increasing or volume decreasing? We have volume increasing, right? Very obvious. And we have open interest, right? Not necessarily really increasing, but staying the same. So right now we have price generally rising, right? In this example, we have volume increasing. Open interest, I can't say that it's really increasing at this point. It's kind of steady, slightly decreased. So until the chart gives us something different, right? We'll just assume that we're still in this bullish, strong uptrend. And that's why we have high buying interest, and we still have new long contracts opening up. So that's the idea here. We'll hopefully see Ethereum hold this 3,700 at least price level here throughout the day. And if all this open interest keeps equating, then we still have quite a bit of longs. Oh, so while still on open interest, right? So we've talked about kind of some of these examples. I was trying to show you some places where you can look. CoinGlass. Some of these other ones are more like subscriptions. Trading Light, ExoCharts, Coin Analyze is another good one, and Tensor Charts. So I'll show you here. I kind of wanted to look. I'll show you these last examples here at the end. So I want to solve. So let's look at funding as well, right? Funding is a little bit simpler. In crypto, funding has an effect on price, right? Especially say the larger, if you're a whale or you're an institutional trader, right? Funding probably has a bigger, effect on your positions than a retail trader. But and some of that's going to vary on the amount of leverage, right? And the amount of capital. But perpetual swaps don't have an expiry date. We've talked about that. They need to keep the exchange price near the spot price. So when it starts to reach extreme differences, funding is used to make traders want to close or open positions. So if funding is positive, people are attracted to close their shorts to receive the funding. Longs pay shorts. If funding is negative, people are attracted to close their longs to receive the funding. Shorts pay longs. Right? So you can kind of think of funding too as a real kind of simple, basic way to kind of judge if people are net long, in general, or net short. And so what I mean by that is, if funding's positive, right, and really you even see it still go up, increasing, right, then kind of similar to open interest, but not as much. But generally, you could get the idea of the crowd mentality is long at the moment, and go short. So same type thing when we look at funding, right, and funding rates. CoinGlass is a place you can do this. This Coin Analyze is another. But so when we look at funding rates here, we can also look at accumulated as well. No, I don't want arbitrage. So we can see here, looking at the Bitcoin open interest funding rate right now, it's actually negative, right? So that means that shorts are actually paying longs, right now. So if you're in a long position and this funding is negative, right, that's the way that works. You can see here some of this highest funding rate, right, is on, for example, Bybit on PopCap, right, which is been a popular meme coin that's been listed on exchanges, that's been traded, and so on. So, and when you look kind of up across the board, right, generally say when funding is negative on Bitcoin, right, besides a few outliers, you'll find that funding will typically be negative on the rest of your baskets of coins. Same way you can look at funding rates here. Usually you have like a current and also a predicted. The predicted is just kind of what it's predicted in the future. I would just recommend looking at current funding rates for anybody out there. And you can... Oh! Thank you. Thank you. So when we look at funding rates, right, we can see now here on Bitcoin the current funding rate. These are normalized to 8 hours. Okay. And is this real time? Yeah. Okay. So for example, like in this, what we're looking at here, right? And I was talking about like generally kind of getting an idea of the position in the market or what people are thinking. When you're looking at funding rate, right, you can kind of think of it as you see also another metric sometimes on some of these sites they talk about net long or net short. Kind of similar, right? And so when you look at funding rate, if it's positive, this is barely just probably starting to flip. But anyways, if it was all positive, right, you get the idea that the people are long, right? The majority are long. And then you can kind of get the same idea. When you look over here at long-short ratio, you see how the majority are long here in this example, over 50%, thus giving you the positive funding rate. So nothing super difficult or complicated about that. Funding rate less of an impact than open interest. That's what I want you to keep in mind. So let's talk about vWAP, guys, real quick. This is not an actual, this is not a rate. vWAP stands for volume weighted average price, right? So people use vWAPs in all different types of aspects of trading, but a vWAP, why it's a good and powerful indicator to use. You can use it on shorter time frames, say if you're trying to scalp, but also, if you're using it on a high time frame, whether you're looking at like a session. When I say sessions, for those of y'all that don't know, we're talking about like the U.S. session or the Asia session or things like that. So usually, like when we refer to a session, right, there'll be a higher time frame, right, because sessions are hour-long periods of time. So vWAP, the volume weighted average price. vWAP is supported. A vWAP is a support and resistance line below the level. If it's below the level expected, right, then it's going to be resistance. If it's above, right, it's going to act as support. Is the way you think about that. It's going to look on a chart very similar to like a moving average. So vWAP is very impactful because it's calculated by incorporating price and volume statistics. At vWAP level, there is a lot of transacted volume, so it does benefit like a scalper that trades with like bigger sizes. Useful for scalp trades in general, can be used in all time frames, right? I just was mentioning about how it can be used in high time frames, or even somebody on a low time frame, right? Big size scalps are difficult to trade, typically when there's small volume, right? Especially so, typically like the more obscure the coin or the smaller the market cap, right? On a DEX, but also on an exchange, on a SEX, the volume will be lower. Maybe because it's new, maybe, or there's not much awareness, whatever the case. So somebody that's like scalping, right, or anybody making like a larger order, they're going to be looking for where there's lots of volume, right, and liquidity in order to make those trades without it affecting the price too much. So, and the vWAP can be a yearly, monthly, weekly, daily session. I think you get the idea. So we're going to look at a few examples, and then I can even pull it up over here in TradingView too. So this is an example of a high time frame vWAP. It's a very strong support and resistance. See how I was talking about it? It looks similar to a moving average. Kind of is in theory. When price is above vWAP, right, it's above the value. When it's below the value. All these that we're looking at are just examples of vWAPs. The only difference will be is we're just looking at different time frames, as well as the last one I'm going to show you is what's called an anchored vWAP. So the only difference between an anchored vWAP and these other ones we're looking at is an anchored vWAP is going to come from a particular point in time that you would choose, right? There's no magic set one. You'd want to pick, and we'll look, but you'd want to pick where there's a large volume, but it's just going to be based on individual choice. And just keep in mind, higher the time frame, right, the stronger the signal. So in this example, right, like this is a very high time frame vWAP, right? So you're going to see price reaction much stronger. So here is like another example of using vWAP, right? And so this would be on like a low time frame. This is just a 5 minute in this example, but this is what I'm calling like a session vWAP, right? Because this all took place during one session, right? This is all during, say, right. Let's just make this thing up. If we're looking at here, we have Bitcoin on a 4-hour time frame, and so if we were to use put this into practice, right? Let me go ahead and I'm just going for this. I'm going to put on my visible range volume profile here, which is going to give me a volume profile like we talked about, guys, of our whole range. So we have our point of control here in this example, but we're going to just use that to tie in for confidence, right? And we have our volume on the bottom to look at. So we will search for volume weighted average price. You can usually get to these quicker even if you go to technical here in TradingView. So here is, now that I've turned on the built-in standard vWAP, so this is an example of what on a 4-hour time frame using something like vWAP, volume weighted average price, what it looks like and what it gives us. So you can see now that we are actually here now trading below, right? So in this example, it's going to act as resistance for the time being until we're above this in price. Now looking here on our chart, we see any large spikes in volume. I do right here. So if we were looking to possibly utilize something like an anchored vWAP, right? And maybe here was a kind of a larger spike in volume. So again, let's look at how we use something like an anchored vWAP. So we will pull from here. So you can see here in this example, right? Using it with an anchored vWAP versus our built-in vWAP. What we ended up getting here was we pulled it here right from this higher volume spike in this move here. So this then acted as became support really, and then acted as well, I didn't say support. So this acted as resistance, right, until we really kind of broke above it here in this example. Trying to turn off some of these other bands on here. Okay, so here's a better example looking at vWAP. So anchored vWAP. So you can see here, pulled from here, how this kind of really acted as resistance, right, in the downtrend until we broke back up above it. This being said, similar thing set up here. So for using anchored vWAP, say on this volume spike we got here, we would just anchor it from here at this point, and then you can see that it started to act as support, right, in these higher time frames. So that's kind of how you work with vWAPs. Pretty simple. Does anybody have any questions on that one? And then after that, I thought I wanted to show you, some of these might end up making it a little bit easier for you built in, but I want to show you some of these platforms real quick, if any of y'all have some interest. So I wanted to some of y'all might be familiar with Trading Light or maybe ExoCharts. I think they're both both of those are both subscription-based platforms. I think they're both really good. I think that I like some other alternatives I've been seeing out there too, so I wanted a chance to kind of like show that with you a little bit here. Some of them are kind of like cheaper alternatives. Some of them are kind of doing different things. Some of them do similar things. But we're all about trying to empower and share here, right? So I want you to be using kind of similar things that I find helpful and useful. That's what it's all about. So this first one is called Mob Charts, guys. If you ever want to check this out, I have a link in my description. You can use this for free, and you can also use this as a subscription-based platform. It's about, I think, only $14 a month or whatever, which is pretty reasonable. Obviously, you can use these heat maps and everything else in here, but this is where you can look at as well at open interest and funding and things like that. And you have obviously here, this is volume delta I'm looking at, but if we wanted to add some regular, oh, I can't do some of my derivatives. Anyways, we can sit here and So as we can see here, right, we got open interest now here on the bottom, and I could add funding rate and keep going on. But what I like about this is that you have the ability to use heat maps and look at liquidity, and also open interest. So you can really look at order books. You see now that we have the spike. I'm only on a 15-minute chart, but we have the spike here in open interest, right? Which we'll have to monitor volume and see what ends up happening. You can see here that actually volume is increasing even in this example. But if we look here, oh yeah, we have quite an imbalance. Anyways, but this is a good platform where you can look at open interest and funding rate and even heat maps. I'd recommend check it out. It's called Mob Charts. And here's another one I really like called tensor charts. Very similar, right? Where we can look at heat maps, and we can look at delta, and we can look at things like open interest. You can even use vWAP in some of these if you wanted to. So I wanted to be sure and share both those with y'all, and if anybody would like to possibly maybe get started using some of these, we could make that happen for sure. This right here, I can get basically a team subscription for 5 people. I don't even know how many people are here today, but if y'all want to, I'd be happy to give away like a month of this to 5 people here that want to learn more. Anyways, that's about all I got for you guys, you beasts today. I appreciate all y'all coming, being here. Let me see, check.